Peace and blessings, family. It's time for me to make another quick video, another edition of Spiritual Food for Thought. As I always say, family, I hope that all finds you well, at least in your relationship with the Creator. As I said, family, the world has just gone to crap, and it continues to get worse. But the only thing that's going to help us and keeping our sanity and our right mind, family, is the Holy Spirit. And we have to continue to ask for a greater portion of it every day and throughout the day. Because, family, it is what it is. Without the mind of the Father, there's no way we could survive this process. And as I said, we're in the process of being created. And that's why we're experiencing being basically caught in the middle of this battle of good and evil. Because it's the only way that the Father could prove the investment of His Spirit that He placed in those who He's chosen since the beginning of the foundation of the earth. And so, to me, it's perfectly logical and rational way of thinking on His part. Because without a process, nothing is real. So the bottom line is, family, we have to be tried and proved. And this realm is the realm in which our born again process is actually playing itself out. And so this is why we must have, that we must continue to seek and search out the Creator's will for our lives to understand ourselves so we can overcome the greatest enemy we have. And that's in our flesh, who we see in the mirror. Because we got to remember, family, the natural man received not the things of the Spirit, because it's foolishness to him, and neither can he know them because it's spiritually discerned. So we got to understand, family, the Spirit of the living power is everything. And this is why, what I'm saying in this hour is that we should be seeking the Father about receiving our portion of His Ruach and a greater portion every day, to give us the understanding of His mind, family, so that we could fulfill our destiny in Him. See, each of us got a calling by the Father. You know what I'm saying? All of us. The bottom line is, He made all of us unique and with a divine purpose and plan to serve Him under the spirit of His divine love, with whatever gifts and talents and abilities that He's given each of us, that we could then turn around and share those gifts and talents with the people around us, and not just our fellow man, but our fellow living creatures in this world, and Mother Earth, and who brought us all forth from. Because as we absorb the spirit of life and pass that on to others, then they continue to pass that on and pass that on, and we all pass that to one another. And eventually we give life back to the earth. And then the earth will bring forth life to us, because it's the earth that's supposed to sustain us. And it's the thing that the Father has brought forth from the earth, and is supposed to be our substance. And so the bottom line is, what's happening in this fallen mindset that we've fallen to under the spirit of pride, we become a God unto ourselves, and we deify our own desires of our flesh above that of the understanding of the Creator. So thus we have the world that we exist in right now, that's under the spirit of death, this separation from the divine love and will of our Creator. Okay, so as I said, family, we got to be delivered from this world and the ways of this world and the mind and the teachings of this world. We have to. Okay, so the only way that we can be delivered from this is that our Creator has to deliver us through His divine Spirit, that gives us the understanding we need to know our place and our purpose, so we can comply to His desire as He changes our nature through understanding of His mind, okay, which will cause us to comply to the will of our Creator. Okay, because the kingdom of the Most High is about everything that brings forth the spirit of life. And the kingdom of Hasatan, which is the spirit of this world, is everything that cuts off the flow of life. Okay, so it's enmity against the perfect will of the Father. So this is what we got to be delivered from. This is why we must be born again. Because to be born again is to receive the mind of our Creator that makes us one with Him. Okay, so, and to be one with Him is what? To come in agreement with Him, where we comply, where we walk in obedience to Him, which is the highest form of praise and worship to our Creator. It's our obedience to Him as we understand. Because we don't understand, we can't obey Him. So, with that said, before I go on with this topic, I just want to make that point that I'm not no teacher or none of these titles that men claim that we ain't supposed to. Because we all brothers and sisters. And one is not esteemed higher than the other. We got but one master, and that's our Creator. That's the Most High Power. And the bottom line is, His only begotten Son came to be that example and show us those things. And we haven't understood because we've been in the spirit of our flesh, which causes us to be under the spirit of man worship and self-worship. So we're not receiving and understanding the things that the Creator is actually saying to us. This is why we must continue to cry out and seek and search Him out to give us the same spirit that His only begotten Son has. And so that's what gives us the understanding of our Creator, so then we can walk in obedience to what He says, because now we understand. Because as created beings, family, in reality, we was created to serve the Creator. So, and as I said, I know a lot of people want to play the free will card. Well, as I've said before, our free will is the spirit of our pride that causes us to be separated from the understanding of our Creator's mind. So we make choices of convenience, things that's going to lift us up and please us and all of these things that causes us to be separated from the spirit of His divine love and oneness. So guess what? We operate according to ourselves and our own understanding as our own God. And then our desire is to make the world conducive to our convenience and comfort, so then we enslave those around us, whether it's our fellow man, the fellow creatures that the Father made as an expression of Himself, and the earth itself. And we all guilty of that, especially in the lifestyle that we live in this day, because as I said, this world that we know it and the way we live is unnatural and is contrary to the will of the Creator. So the bottom line is, we have to come to understand what it is before we can be delivered from it. But many of us don't think we're doing nothing wrong, because in our flesh, we believe that. That's what we've been taught and told and all of that. But the bottom line is, as we begin to get born in the spirit, family, we begin to see how we're in violation of the laws of nature. And this is the higher laws of the Creator, and these are the laws that really matter. Because these are the laws, the higher laws of the Creator, family. As we understand those things and we come into agreement with those things, it's the superficial laws of man, then those things can change. Because as we understand the laws of nature, then ultimately those things will tie into the laws of nature. So then we won't walk in any ways that cut off the flow of life, that manifests the spirit of death. Because that's what sin is. It's anything that cuts off the natural order of the creation, the Creator, under the spirit of His divine love, that cuts off the flow of life. That's what sin is. And the Most High is about to do away with it. So, with that said, family, the title I have and what I want to talk about, okay, what a lost soul is, okay? I got lost soul is slaves to our desires. See, we think about a lot of things when we talk about being a lost soul. The scripture comes to mind where it says that what profit a man if he what profit a man if he, I'm going to say claim, I don't know why I can't think of the world, but if he gains, that's what I'm sorry. That what profit a man if he gains the whole world but he loses his own soul. Okay, now when you stop and think about it, okay, to lose your soul, okay, what would cause us to lose our soul, family? It's as we caught up in our desires, our unbridled desires, our desires that's totally out of control, our desires that's really just driven because of the anticipation of pleasure that it brings to our senses. If that's our drive, then this is how we lose our souls. See, our soul is the spirit of our senses. And what are our senses, family? Sight, touch, taste, smell, and hearing. Okay, all of these sensations of our flesh, they can either bring us pain or pleasure. Okay, now, under the spirit of our flesh, okay, the spirit of our senses, what's right to our senses is anything that brings us pleasure. Okay, what's wrong to our senses is anything that brings us pain. Okay, so our senses, the bottom line of our senses is the experience of pleasure and pain. Okay, now when we stop and look at this thing from a spiritual viewpoint, okay, now what's the pleasure? I mean, what's the divine purpose of pleasure and pain? We don't ask them questions. Okay? What's the purpose for pleasure and pain? You know, one thing we could say that is the way that in this realm we experience consciousness. Okay? Because through the senses that bring us either pleasure or pain is how we learn in this realm as well. Okay? Ultimately, is how we learn what we desire and what we don't desire. Okay? Now, in the divine realm of creation, okay, what pleasure eventually does with us, it makes us more self-aware and self-conscious. Because our slavery to pleasure becomes the thing that drives us in this consciousness, in this realm of existence. So we wind up, we lust for things that bring us pleasure. But generally what happens to us when we come into some kind of pain or suffering, okay, those be the very things that bring us to that broken place where we realize, where generally what happens to us is that we begin to become conscious and aware of our Creator, okay? Because that's when we begin to question Him. That's when we begin to cry out to Him. Usually we cry out to Him for deliverance. And generally it's crying out to Him, okay, that hurt, Father, help me this, that, why this, that, okay, I get it now, get me out of this, relieve my pain. But without coming to an understanding of what we just went through and why we're dealing with it and what He's trying to teach us through that. We don't think in terms of that. But yet, when things is going well and we're pleased and all this old kind of stuff, we tend to forget about the Creator. And we start thinking about life is about us and our pleasure and all these old kind of things. So we look at these things of pleasure as blessings from the Father You know, we say, hey, God blessed us with this, that, and the other, and all this, he's good, and all this old kind of stuff. And then when the stuff hit the fan, ooh, why are you doing this to me and all that? See, it's self-awareness. That's what it does. And so it's the things that are painful to us are when we at the best place of learning and being humbled and coming to the realization that we are created beings, okay? And we was actually created to serve the Creator. But we have to go through this process of creation so we can ultimately serve him in the divinity of his kingdom under the spirit of the wonders of his love. But we got to go through this process first. Okay, so as I said, understanding that our soul is the spirit of our senses. So generally, when people talk about losing their soul, you hear people say all the time, you know, a lot of people that I sold my soul to the devil. You know what I'm saying? What the heck does that even mean? The Father said this. He said, all souls are mine. So, you know, I mean, yeah, Scripture does say, what profit a man if he gain the whole world, but he loses his own soul? So, which is it? Because ultimately, all souls belong to the Father. He said, all souls are mine. That's what the Creator said. So the bottom line is, our soul is what he gives us. Because it said he breathed into his nostrils and man became a living soul. Okay, now, as I said, our soul is the spirit of our senses, which makes us conscious in our flesh. Okay, now the thing that we ain't understanding, that as we receive the spirit of the Most High, it makes us alive unto our Creator. Okay, and ultimately, what needs to happen for us to be born again, for our souls to be saved. Saved means to be put in the divine order of the Creator. That's what real salvation is about. To be placed up under his divine order. Okay? So, as through, excuse me, the birthing of his spirit, it will ultimately put our soul in order. Because the reality is, the soul, because, you know, one question I've asked in the past, and I'm still kind of kicking around, if in these bodies that we exist in right now, okay, if you take away the spirit of sight, touch, taste, smell, and hearing, take those senses away out of this temple, what do you got? I mean, really, what do we have then? Is there any consciousness then without them senses? You know, to me, I don't see how there can be. You know, I mean, if once them things are taken away, what usually results? You know what I'm saying? I think they call it pretty much like brain dead, because can your brain exist with none of your senses? Can your brain even go on functioning? Because then to me, it's just keeping a body alive like you would on a ventilator, but that person can't really be there. I mean, what is it? So in other words, consciousness is not possible without the senses. That's what I think. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm just saying, to me, it don't make sense. How could the consciousness exist without no senses? Okay? Is it possible for us to be spiritually alive with no senses? Food for thought. But the point I'm trying to make is that really a lost soul We lose our soul, family, when we become a slave to our desires in the flesh, because we're not in control then. We're being driven then by our lust for pleasure, our anticipation for pleasure, or something to make us feel good. You see what I'm saying? Family, that's not life. That's not living. You see what I'm saying? Living is as we submit to the perfect will of our Creator under the divine spirit of his love and understanding that gives us purpose. Because ultimately, family, to live without purpose is to not be, it's just existing. Because purpose gives us life. It gives us meaning. You see what I'm saying? That's why in another video I call this realm of existence as we in right now the game of death. Because death is anywhere that's separated from the divine consciousness of our Creator. So it causes us to live in an existence where there's evil, there's pain, there's murder, there's all of the stuff, the symptoms that we see, the condition of this world, we see it's a result of the realm of death, where we have deified ourselves above the divine order and perfect love of our Creator. Okay? So we have to be delivered from this. So when we're talking about losing our souls, see the fact that if we are slave to our desires, family, we already lost our souls. And whoso people talk about these entertainers and stuff like that say they sold to the devil to get the wealth and the fame and everything that they have, right? Well, the bottom line is it's the same things in this world, period. You know, if we desire to be okay in this world and be at peace with this world, with whatever it is we desire, it's the same thing. It ain't no difference. Because when we are operating in a realm that's contrary to the divine love of our Creator, we already lost our souls. So in reality, family, the only thing that can redeem our souls, to have our soul redeemed, is to have it put in his divine order, where now we're not run and controlled by the desires of our soul, but we're run and controlled by the desires of the divine spirit of our Creator under the spirit of his divine love that actually puts our soul in check. Okay? So we no longer desire things that's out of his divine order, okay, that will cause us to break the flow of life. Because as we sin against, not only just as we sin against the spirit of his divine love, his divine nature that throws nature out of balance, as we sin against each other, we cut the flow off of life off in our brothers and sisters, okay, as our fellow man. We do the same with our fellow creatures. As we violate the laws of nature that cut off the natural flow of life in all living creatures. And when we abuse the earth for natural resources and all the things we do in this world for monetizing the Father's creation, you see what I'm saying? That cuts off the flow. That's sin against the Most High. That's what it is. So anything that cuts off his divine natural order is sin against him. So the Father right now, what he's doing is baptizing us in the Spirit, giving us the understanding of him so that we see ourselves through his eyes. And as we understand ourselves through his eyes, family, as the created beings we are that was created to serve him in righteousness, guess what? That divine nature of his divine love begins to rise up in us by his Spirit. And then as our mind becomes one with his Spirit in his righteousness, guess what? Then the soul gets in check. So now the soul can't do things that's against the natural order of the Creator. So that's how our soul gets delivered, as it's made one with the mind of the Spirit. See, because if we're spiritually dead to the Creator, then our minds are a slave to our soul, which is a slave to our senses. So in other words, this is what I'm talking about. That's what a lost soul is. A lost soul is a being that's subject to the slavery of his desires for pleasure. And this is what Hasatan plays on. This is how he have power over us. That's how it works. So the only way that can be overcome, we have to be born again. We have to receive the mind of our Creator. We have to receive the mind, excuse me, of our big brother who showed us the way, to show us that it was possible by being born of the same spirit that raised him up from the dead to also raise us up from the dead in our minds. That causes us to love our Father with the same love that he had for the Father. And how is he able, and how we're going to be able to love the Father is through the Spirit, excuse me, of his divine love that passes all understanding, that puts us in our rightful place. And understanding, family, that all the Father ever meant for us to be is ourselves with the understanding of his mind. Okay? He made us all unique with a purpose in serving him. And we can't serve him until we are able to love and be ourselves in him, so we can serve him. So we can receive ourselves under the spirit of humility and divine love, and love ourselves with the mind of our Creator, which is not self-love. Okay? It's not the spirit of pride, family, but it's in humility, where we come to understand our service to the world around us. Because the only thing he meant for us to rule, family, is ourselves. But we can't rule ourselves. We don't understand ourselves. And we can't understand ourselves if we don't see ourselves through the mind of our Creator. Period. Because as long as we distracted by men and the cares of this life and all this thing, we never find ourselves in him. So we're headed for our own destruction. Because apart from him, we are slaves to our flesh and the desires of our flesh, which are the unbridled desires of the flesh. Because anything that's outside the divine will of the Creator, it's unbridled. Okay? It's out of control. Just like in our flesh, we are out of control because we separated from the divine will of our Creator. So we're out of control. As I said, people want to talk about free will. Yeah, man's free will is in opposition to the divine will of the Creator. So free will is the spirit of our pride. It's what it is. Scripture says he resists the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. So what good is that? See, it's our free will need to die because it's pride. And it's leading us to our own destruction, as well as affecting the world around us with satanic energy that's leading this world to destruction. You know, the Father, anything that's separated from the Father, like I said, wickedness is selfishness. Selfishness and pride is pride. What did he say? He said eventually, our own wickedness is going to correct us. That's what ultimately the lake of fire is going to be about. Because if it don't unfold in this existence, and usually it does, but if it don't unfold in this existence, in that place that's the least side of the kingdom, that's where that correction is going to come forth. Because as we resist the will of our Creator, it's like we're saying with it, we're our own God, and we're not subject or nothing to nobody else, and we don't have to give account of our lives and none of that stuff to a higher power. So guess what? Get to spend eternity separated from his divine love, which is ultimately the worst thing ever. Okay? As I said, it's what the Son of the Most High didn't want to go through because it was the worst thing ever. You know what I'm saying? So the bottom line is, hey, but the bottom line is the only way that death could be overcome is that he had to allow that to happen so that he could conquer death, so the Father could conquer death through him and open the door for us to conquer death, to be delivered from this second death that we experiencing right now, because to be separated from the Father's divine love is walking in the second death. That's why I say this existence for real is really the game of death. And we got to be delivered from it. So, understanding, family. You know, in our flesh, our soul is lost already. So the bottom line is, you know, eternally lost. You know, the only thing can save us from that is to be born of his spirit and to receive the mind of our creator that causes us to be one with him. And as we're one with him, then we're in agreement with him in every way. So then we can't walk in sin against him. And so the bottom line, it causes us to walk in a place where as we walk in that oneness of his divine love, we can't sin against him. We don't sin against each other, our fellow creatures, and Mother Earth, and who he brought us all forth from. Such is the kingdom of the Most High Power, which is the kingdom of heaven. So, as I said, we got to understand our need to be delivered, our need to be saved from our own self, our own ignorance, our own pride, and all those things that causes us to be separated from our Creator. That's what we got to be delivered from, to be saved from. Not from hellfire and all that, because we experiencing this right now. We exist in the realm of the gates of hell. And that's why we suffering and going through all the things that we're going through. But ultimately, the Father's purpose for this is going to be done away with. And ultimately, that's when that's going to be cast into the lake of fire. Because, you know, as I said, this is the process of our creation. And when the Father's done with the process, it's going to be done away with. And only the kingdom of the Most High Power is going to be left as the kingdom of heaven comes to this earth. And as I said, you know, it ain't about going to heaven up in the sky and stuff like that. As I said, the kingdom of the Most High Power is all around us, but because of the conditions of our minds and the flesh, we can't see it. So the bottom line is to be spiritually born. It's going to bring our minds to a place where we're going to behold the kingdom that's already around us. And anything that's not of his divine kingdom, it's going to be done away with. So, with that said, just keep it in mind, family. When we walk in our flesh, we done lost our soul already. So the bottom line, the ultimate thing we need to understand is that our soul needs to be redeemed and put in its proper place. So our minds is ruled by his spirit and not by the soul. Because the soul is the spirit of our flesh. The flesh is the spirit of our soul. Okay? The spirit is the spirit of the Most High Power. That's in reference to our Creator, his divine perfect will of order. And as I said, the holiness of the Creator is his divine order. That's what the kingdom of heaven is, and that's where we're headed. So, with that said, family, I hope I said something, give you something to think about and consider. And I pray that the Most High continue to keep you and watch out over you as long as you continue to seek and search him out for yourself. Because as I said, that's why I make these videos. And it's called Food for Thought. Because I just want to throw things out there to get you to think about. You know, just to consider. You know, seek the Most High for yourself. Because the distractions of this world keep us so messed up that we don't think about things that matter. And that's why I said, as the child of the Most High, the most important thing to us, family, don't ever forget this, the most important thing to us as the child of the Most High should be for us to understand how he sees us. How does your Creator see you? Because that's the thing that I'm most concerned about more than anything is how the Father sees me. Because when we know how the Father sees us and we have peace with him, there ain't nothing greater than that. So, with that said, family, until next time, I would say one love and peace and blessings.